What you guys saying today? And welcome back to another What We Learned video after a hard-fought 1-0 win against West Ham yesterday. For my 4 talking points, I'm going to be discussing Trevor chalobah, Lukaku and service, as well as our inability to break down defensive blocks. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and don't forget that I have been banging out the content recently. I have dropped a news video today focusing on Mahrez plus the big stories that banged today, so make sure you guys don't forget that. Without wasting no more time, let's start with the first thing we learned. So now I want to start with the first thing learned in yesterday's win, and that is Lukaku and a lack of service. Now, before I get into that, was it just me, or did Lukaku have the most impactful moments in the game? When he came on, we won the penalty. He forced Dawson to get that red card, and for Pulisic's winner, I felt like Lukaku, just due to his clear presence inside the box, he took the attention away from Declan Rice, which allowed that space to be made for Pulisic to arrive into and then finish with his left foot. I feel like Lukaku does have subtle impacts to the team. It's very, very subtle ones. And when I mention that, the subtle involvements I see is the fact that we seem to create a few more chances. And I think that's because other players are able to, find spaces to run into that weren't existing beforehand. I think because Lukaku is one of the strongest players in the league, the fact that he can pin and hold any defender in the country, I just think his clear presence alone just forces defenders to have to pay attention, Ideally though, Lukaku has shown that he can help his teammates, not perfectly, but he's demonstrated that that can be shown, and we do profit from that. Many a time where we've been struggling to break teams down in a game, Lukaku comes on, then I'm seeing other players like Kai and others, Timo Werner, having more shots in the game. But I think the main thing that doesn't help Lukaku is the fact that it seems like there is still no quality patterns of play that involve him. I mean, in yesterday's game, I'm still remembering Mason Mount not making the easiest pass in the world to Lukaku, who was in a much better position on the stronger left foot. And of course, Pulisic not being able to play a simple pass in behind. And throughout the season, other than Kovacic playing like row-driven passes straight to his feet, I can't remember really any players out there who have really looked to try and get Lukaku in the game. Maybe other than Ziyech, but even then, their relationship still needs a lot more time. So then I guess it brings my overall question. Is it too soon to quickly give up on Lukaku? Or with pre-season, the pre-season that Lukaku didn't have last summer when he signed for us, is there still more life in the player? Now that Tuchel's going to have a new owners to work with, new money to invest back in the squad, and with players leaving as well, Christensen and Rudiger, this could provide an opportunity now for Thomas Tuchel to, finally have a squad in his image and maybe fine-tune and tweak the tactics to, become even stronger against defensive teams. And, by doing so, I think that one thing we really lack now is players forming and building these partnerships and understandings in the field. I mean, when I'm looking at Man City play, when I'm looking at Liverpool, when I'm looking at our rivals, I see lots of teams that have that combination play and that link up. I mean, look at Benzema and Vinicius. Like, Benzema can play passes ahead of Vinicius without even having to open his eyes because he knows exactly where his teammate's going to be. However, just seeing Lukaku's substitute appearance in that game, his teammates look absolutely lost. When Lukaku wants the ball to feet, it's not finding him. When he's quickly got on the side of the defender to spin him and run him behind, balls aren't being played quickly enough in behind. And listen, I'm not going to say that it's not Lukaku's fault as well too. Of course, he takes some responsibility for the season, but it isn't solely on him. He needs some help. He needs some support. And as we saw yet again yesterday, that lack of understanding is also at fault due to his teammates not getting him as well too, and not executing the service that he needs. So I'm going to pose this question to you guys. Do you think we should keep Lukaku? Because remember, there aren't many clubs who have the type of resources financially to be able to entice and even sign a player like Lukaku on the wages and, for the money that we'd want to let him go. So who are these clubs out there other than like Paris Saint-Germain, maybe Inter Milan and AC Milan? Could it be that we have to give him another season with a pre-season before we decide to, completely give up on him? Let me know in the comment section below, you guys. And now we move on to the second thing we learned, and I think we have to discuss Trevor chalobah. Now, in yesterday's game, he did have a mistake. He was caught on the ball on the right-hand side, getting dispossessed by Benrahma. But credit to Trev, he was able to rectify that mistake, win back possession, recover the ball. Of course, it's not the first time that we have noticed mistakes in Trev's game, considering the age he's at. It's normal. But I think for me, I always stress the fact that when he makes these mistakes in game, they don't typify his entire game. He doesn't make that same mistake 2 or 3 times in game. He rectifies that mistake, he comes back, and as the game progresses, he grows and grows. He's more confident and he gets stronger. And now that Rudiger's left, I'm bringing up a question. Could Trevor Chalobah ideally be that Rudiger regen in the making? Because when you see how he plays as a wide centre-back, he definitely has the passing on point from progressing the ball. We see how comfortable he is stepping into midfield too. He has very good shooting technique where when he takes long shots, most times he's testing the goalkeeper a lot more than what Rudiger's doing. And on top of that too, when it comes to that combo play down the right hand side, when it comes to knowing when to make those overloads, either inside the field or outside the field, he has that to a T. But I think for me, the thing that he really demonstrates is just how good he is with his 50-50 tackling. I mean, it's not very often he's giving away poor fouls that's putting us under pressure. He really makes some really important challenges. And yesterday against West Ham, we can't forget there's this great moment where he kind of shielded the ball away to let go out of play. We can't forget some of the blocks he made in the game too. There was one in particular where he made this backwards header from across inside the box. West Ham were attacking that and he just glanced with the back of his head. I thought that was incredible defending from him. And when I see him doing 5 things right, even though he might do 1 thing wrong, I'm okay with that, understanding that this is part of development. And one thing I do want to say is that there's a lot of defenders around his age where, if you guys watch a lot of football outside of just watching us and you see his contemporaries around him, some of these guys are making crazy mistakes that if, us fans were watching them play for our team, the level of scrutiny, it wouldn't work and people wouldn't like it or rate it at all. I think with Trev, he's taken the opportunity given to him by Thomas Tuchel. And I think most importantly, he's shown what he can bring to the team. He's not just a guy that's just there to do his job and wait to play like 10 games later in the future. He actually brings things to the game. He looks to test keepers. Very good from set pieces, good aerially, good on the ball, fast. I feel like there's a lot of potential behind him and he's had a great debut season so far. So right now, you guys move on to the final 2 points. So right now we move on to the next thing that was learned in yesterday's game. And I might sound controversial, but is Jorginho's penalty technique now starting to get figured out and found out? Is it starting to become a hop, skip and miss? Maybe I'm being a bit too cynical there, you guys, but I don't know. I guess if you were to look at the stats, out of like 24 penalties he's taken, he's only missed 4. I think the last penalty he missed in the league was against Arsenal last season. So it's not like this is like a constant facet in his game. However, it's the type of penalties he's missing now, and it's the moments and the occasions. I feel like even though his technique is good, it hasn't helped him when I feel like Jorginho is mentally under pressure. And actually, if we analyze that miss against West Ham yesterday, that was really poor execution of his penalty, because when he takes these penalties, George is regularly hitting them either side, on the left or on the right. Like, he doesn't hit them in the middle. That becomes savable. I think one of the reasons behind why he felt so much pressure in the moment is an accumulation of things. Focusing on Fabianski, I feel like he's doing one thing that keepers are starting to do more against players that take penalties with this technique, and that is, instead of looking to dive and second guess where the ball is going to go, they're actually holding their positions a lot more, and they're now trying to use like subtle like feet movements to try and to trick the penalty taken to knowing what side to aim their striking. And this ability of like holding their position, not diving down as quickly, and constantly being in their feet to get ready to quickly dive, I feel is creating a much higher success rate against saving these types of penalties. Essentially, the genius behind Jorginho's penalties is that with that technique, you're essentially taking the goalkeeper out the game completely before you even strike in the ball. That's because the keepers don't know what your next move is going to be, essentially. And the reason why he hooks is because you're waiting for that subtle movement for the keeper to give an idea of what direction they're about to dive into before you land from the hook and then kick the ball in the opposite direction. It's worked time and time again, but at this level, with top players around you, things don't last forever. I think keepers are more confident now to hold their positions, knowing that because the striking of these balls isn't done with too much intensity and they're not hit too hard, I guess it boosts the chances of being able to save it the longer you hold your position and wait to play that psychological battle with the penalty taker. But still though, you know, let's hope that George can get over this. We know that since those 2 penalty misses with the Italian national team, as he himself said, this is something that he can never forget about. You know, it's not the first time he's missed decisive penalties and decisive moments. I'm thinking about the penalty miss in the Carabao Cup final against Man City. I'm looking at the Euro final actually, where George was the 5th penalty taker, and if he had scored that penalty, he would have won all the headlines. You know, Jorginho being the Ballon d'Or nominee who won the penalty shootout for Italy. That wasn't the case, and I feel like he has given examples of, you know, failing in the final hurdle when the moments and the pressure gets too much. So is it time to take him off penalty duties? I'd say no, because I think then you're killing the confidence of the player even more. But I guess we can do what Tuchel says and try and forget about it, because the player knows himself he messed up, and let's hope he can try and get back to find some form, because we are going to need our midfielders before the season ends. So on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Of course, don't forget to watch my news daily video and stay tuned for more content dropping tomorrow. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.